You're listening to a Meatsmith Harvest. This is the podcast that encourages and equips you to grow your home around the harvest. Welcome, Meatsmiths. This dialogue picks up where we left off in our last episode's conversation. You can find part 1 on our website, YouTube, or iTunes. If the content resonates with you, please consider supporting our team by going to patreon.com/Meatsmith and donating a small monthly pledge. This goes directly toward more free media headed your way. Thanks for staying tuned for part 2.
Yeah, the only thing that I want them to be able to do with the screen is use it as a tool.
Right.
And not be used by it and not be enslaved to it for whatever reason. If they get addicted to it and it's the only way they can relax, or much worse, than that, it can be a horrible addiction and they can become enslaved to it. And that would be the worst. And so when I think about them learning how to deal with computers and the infinite quagmire that is the internet, it's to learn that they have a tool at their disposal that is enormous and incredible.
Yeah, powerful.
And the first rule in learning that it is a tool is learning that you are the agent. You are the one wielding the tool, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And so if that's lesson number 1, then the best thing I can do is prevent them from getting addicted to it in any way.
Yeah. Because
the moment they become addicted, they are the tool. And they are enslaved to it. So if that's lesson number 1, then it's like, man, they're just not going to be on the computer at all for many years. Like, they really don't need to. I would like for them to learn how to type, F and J. And because that will be pretty important.
Yeah.
But, they're not going to be set back. You can learn everything about the functionality of the computer in about 4 days. I mean,
I know, especially nowadays.
Yeah, it's not. And so I would like for them to learn how to be able to research things. But again, the internet's not even the best place for that.
Exactly.
It's mostly on like subscription databases through universities and stuff.
No, you're right about calling it a tool. I heard a great parallel that I think applies really well. That a computer, you got to treat it like it's a loaded gun. Because you can do amazing things with a loaded gun. Like, you could feed your family with a loaded gun.
That's right.
Or you could kill someone, and that's kind of the difference.
Yeah.
That a computer is. It's like that. With great power comes great responsibility kind of thing. And I know I wouldn't give my 11-year-old a big loaded gun right now.
No.
When he uses a pellet gun, but
and even I think
there's gradations, maybe.
Yeah, maybe the universal laws of gun safety apply to the computer too. Like, every computer is loaded,
right?
Even if it's not, or something. Like, you just put this space around it.
Well, if it has access to the internet,
it's loaded.
It's loaded.
Yeah. There's a round in the chamber.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to that end, because one of the big pillars of my homeschooling approach is habit building. And we kind of we've talked about this almost in every episode.
Right.
But, and so I'm segueing to that because with computer usage, you have to build habits.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
That's a much better way to say it. Yeah.
And so I guess let me back up. If I had to point out a name, if I had to name drop today, I would name drop Charlotte Mason.
Yeah.
And her home education series. This is just one book, and it's a 6-volume, like a 6-book series. And I have to admit, I haven't even gotten that far. I'm like halfway through in this book, but this is going to be my summer reading. And she talks about things that we've kind of skirted around this entire episode so far that I'd love to help people see. Because, I mean, I could sit here and yap all day about the curriculums I use, but even more than that are some principles. Like if you're going to live with your kids, I have to back up real quick. There's memes out. I think by now we've all seen the funny memes that have popped up from people being in their homes 24/7 with their
about
children.
homeschooling, yeah.
And they're like ready to kill themselves.
Yeah.
And how hard it is, you know.
It is.
But I think also it's because we've lost track of some of these pillars of, well, basic human functionality, but also educating.
Yeah.
And one of her pillars is habit building in your children. That is your, I don't know if she says this explicitly, but I've come to see it as that's our primary duty, is building habits in our children.
And what is a good habit? It's a virtue.
Right. Exactly.
And a bad habit is a vice.
Yes. And if you have sent your children out into the world with good habits, you've done a good job. Whether or not it's, you know, good habits of a mathematician or a reading nerd or a musician or...
Personal hygiene. That's a particular habit we're trying to develop right now.
Oh my goodness. That is so hard. Yeah.
We need the virtue of hygiene, right?
Yes.
Especially right now.
Right.
Grief.
Yeah.
So teaching your kids to brush their teeth, that's homeschooling. And yes, that has to be taught.
Yeah. Especially with 6 kids in one bathroom.
Yeah. They don't get that.
Yeah.
That needs to be educated.
Without murdering their chuthers.
Right.
So imagine all 6 kids and sometimes both parents in the same bathroom.
Very tiny bathroom.
At the same time.
Yeah.
Trying to get everyone to brush their teeth.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that falls, there's no part of human life or being a successful human that falls outside the realm of habit.
No.
Right? If we can
That's right.
build good habits, there's nothing that you're wasting time on. If you're building a habit, you're not wasting time.
Yeah.
You're not wasting time building a good habit.
Yeah.
So consider it all part of the course curriculum. Getting up at a reasonable hour, like getting dressed. These are good habits, and children need to learn them, particularly moral habits.
Yeah.
And they experience that mostly with interaction with each other, and then learning how to obey their parents. Those are good habits.
If you send a child out into the world and they don't obey their employer, that's real bad. They got to learn that basic thing.
Yeah.
This is not just us being uber traditional. This is like, you got to learn how to obey the hierarchies that exist in the world. They do exist. So, yeah. And she talks, I wish I could read an excerpt, but she talks about like the liberation that habit is, because it's this great gift we've been given as animal souls.
It's a life hack.
It is.
In a way.
To be able to liberate yourself to do something that's super hard and quite easily.
Yeah.
You know?
Because the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yes.
That's the thing about habit. You might think it's hard the first 10 times.
Yeah.
But it will actually get easier, and you might even begin to delight in it.
Yeah. I know. Imagine that your kids could actually delight in doing the virtuous. That's success right there. They're not fighting against it. Because here's the thing. Because she postulates, are we not then just creating a bunch of automatons?
There you go. Yeah.
Right? That's the argument against it. Like, are we taking away their free will by teaching them this habit?
I don't know.
She says, we are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
Willy-nilly. We already build habits. All of our behavior already is built 99% on the basis of habit. We think for free, but much of what we say, how we bathe ourselves, how we eat, exactly.
How we cook.
Exactly. The way we dress, all of the way we converse, it's all habit. So if we can, shift our children's habits this way as opposed to that way, that that's our job. I don't know what else our job is as parents. So,
yeah, the gift you're giving them when you give them the ability to form habits is, I mean, I keep saying it, but it's self-mastery. They can literally do anything. Like if they can develop a habit, if they can perceive maybe a bad habit and then learn to break it and develop the contrary virtue, they can do anything, because the greatest battle is always with yourself.
Yeah.
If you can conquer yourself, there is nothing outside of your ability.
Now, here's the thing, too, is, and she talks about this, you're not only building a habit in your children, but you're building a habit in yourself of building their habits. And that's tough. So I've heard a lot of parents complain, I built a chore wheel, let's say. Like, they want to get their family on the chores, right? So, with no dirty dishes, no sweeping, whatever. And they're like, and it always fails. Like, within 3 days, it's petered out, you know? And I get it. I totally get it. It's super hard. I have my own chore task duty list. And I'm building the habit right now. I've had this chore list up for 6 months. I'm still like creeping towards being on it every other day. So that's where we're at. As I have to build my own habit of, in a non-tyrannical way, you know, urging and encouraging my children to observe this chore. And it has actually paid off. I've been doing the morning chore list for a couple years now, and we're maybe 85% of the way there, and that feels really good. But I'm teaching myself habit at the same time, because I can't teach my kids something if I'm not expecting it of myself too.
That's so good. And I know that's why it's a scary thing to be a parent. The lessons you're teaching your children, I should probably do that. Start doing that thing when I'm telling them to do. And they do exemplify to you your own vices. They just mirror them right back at you. It's like, see that bad habit? Does it look familiar? Yeah, that's from you, Dad. And that's why they are great illustrations of the Aristotelian virtue ethic that, you know, we are so prone to have an emotional reaction to things. That's our initial response, is to regard something, any new thing that comes in our way or activity, to regard it either with aversion or attraction. Like, we love it or we hate it. And when you do that, when you allow yourself to fall off of that precipice, it's a precipitous thing. Like, we just instantly react with love or hatred. We react with an act of will. It becomes hard to understand that thing, rather than reacting with reason, with understanding, with our intellect. We fall right into the turmoil of emotion. And that's children. I mean, that's how they roll all day. And you can see this, you know, because they get very upset about things that it's irrational. They don't need to, you know, like little kids, especially, you know, little Therese. I think it was last night, like, she wanted Fever. Which is kefir. And Therese and I sit on the couch at night after everyone is in bed and waiting.
We have this habit of it.
We have this habit of sitting together and drinking fever. She's almost 2. She's 2 going on 2, basically. And she wanted it. We do nightly prayer as a family, and she wanted it before we do the prayer. We always do it after. And she lost it. She had this appetite for fever, and it was denied her, and she was utterly overcome by her aversion to not getting fever. She was overcome. The depth of her sorrow was bottomless.
Yeah.
Which is so sad.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
Like it's not a shallow, like she was really sad. Truly. She thought it was over.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. And multiply that by several years in an adult.
Yeah. That's scary.
That's a scary thing. Passions are super powerful, and what they do is they make you incapable of understanding the object.
They blind you.
They blind you. And as far as Chores knew, she was never going to have Kiefer again.
Yeah.
The answer was no, forever. And so she could not understand Kiefer from then on out.
Yeah.
It was done. And eventually, not even by excessive negotiation, but more just, she's almost 2, so I try to explain to her, first pray, then Kiefer. First pray. I'm trying to do a timeline, like I'm plotting it out.
Yeah.
Literally 15 minutes, and then it's Kiefer.
Yeah.
Like it's not gone.
Yeah.
Let's get the understanding engaged here.
This is the rhythm we're building.
And
right?
yes, and it worked, but I don't think it was necessarily because she understood perfectly what I was saying. It was because she had a habit of prayer first, then Kiefer.
Yeah.
So when she noticed everyone, this is what we do every night
This is what we
at
do.
exactly this time. This is our habit. She chilled. She stopped.
Wow. Okay.
And I think that is the great gift of habit.
Yeah.
Is that it allows you to be a master of yourself and not be plunged into bottomless sorrow when you don't need to be.
Yeah.
When there's no actual reason to do it, because your reason is not suspended by powerful emotion.
It was something she could recognize and hold on to in the midst of the storm.
And she got it, like she stopped instantly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she could see it around her.
Yeah. And then we had FIFA afterwards, and it was all good.
Yeah. That's so cool. I didn't know that had at all transpired.
Yeah. But that's that's every day with all the kids. And that is the content of homeschooling.
Exactly.
It's the training of those little habits, those little battles that you think have nothing to do with like their intellectual development or their education. It's like, no. That's actually it. That is the bullseye. That's what you're training in them. Because if they have that ability, there is nothing they can't learn. There's nothing they can't do.
I know.
You're giving them the tools to build the house, not just the blueprint. They need all the apparatus. I don't know what a good metaphor for that is, but it's something like that.
Can I read an excerpt of this? Because you're just hitting the ball out of the park here.
Yeah.
But she says, "But let us be thankful. Life is not thus laborious." Because she's talking about how it is laborious if we have to choose every time to do this certain good thing.
That's exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
But when you build a habit, you actually, ironically, you're taking away your choices. But can you imagine if you had to exercise decision making for every little thing?
Right.
Let that sink in. That would be horrible. Just how much toothpaste I'm going to put on my toothbrush, or
right.
If I had to really
how to
think
take a
about
shower
that, and
how to drive down the road. Yeah.
Right. Okay. But let us be thankful.
Habits.
Life is not thus laborious. For 100 times we act or think, and I love how habit applies to thinking as well, right? Because so much of the time we get ourselves in trouble there. For 100 times we act or think, it is not necessary to choose, to will, say more than once. And the little emergencies which compel an act of will fall in the children's lives just about as frequently as in our own. These we cannot save them from, nor is it desirable that we should. What we can do for them is to secure that they have habits which shall lead them in ways of order, propriety, and virtue, instead of leaving their wheel of life to make ugly ruts in miry places.
That's great. She is the Jane Grigson of homeschooling, by the way.
Yes, she is.
Meatsmith.
She can write.
Charcuterie and French pork cookery is written by a woman named Jane Grigson.
And modern science vindicates her. I mean, if I have to say that, I guess I should say that.
Yeah.
But
even though we don't care so much.
I don't. Yeah. But there's some amazing science that's being it's proving all this folk wisdom now.
Yeah.
Because that's what she did. She just observed. I don't know if she had kids on her own, actually. But she observed children for decades, and she was an educator. Yeah. And so this is sort of the result of her observations. Yeah. And then she says, even after that, the boy who has been accustomed to find both profit and pleasure in his books does not fall easily into idle ways because he is attracted by an idle schoolfellow. The girl who has been carefully trained to speak the exact truth simply does not think of a lie as a ready means of getting out of a scrape, coward as she may be. Yeah. So it's virtue training, but also, I think it's also good it's intellectual training. Yeah. I mean, it's all connected. Yeah. But you're teaching your kids how to get out of these miry places. Like Chores was in last night, and Oliver. I mean, I get stuck in these miry places too. Yeah. So, gotta teach your mind to shift. Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew Upson put a great quote on the Meatsmith table. He said, "More is caught than taught in parenting." That's great.
That is good.
More is caught than taught.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of mini-me's walking around before you know it.
Yeah.
They're just imitating. They're catching your habits. Yeah. Yeah, and I also was going to mention, there's definitely like those 20-minute segments throughout the day of homeschooling.
Yes.
But then there's also a substantial time taken in the day of chores.
Oh, yes.
So like chores are an essential part. They're a significant chunk of the day for every kid. Even Beatrice has to get her pajamas on at night. And she's 4.
Yeah. Or she can lose it.
And it's hard. I mean, that's a challenge for her.
Yeah.
She's a bit of a free-spirited girl. And it's that is she does not yet have the virtue of vesting herself for bed.
Yeah.
She's still learning that. Because it must be learned.
Yeah.
We don't know this stuff when we're born.
Okay, you're reminding me actually of a funny story. So when we first moved to Vashon, which is actually kind of like the setting that Captain Fantastic illustrates, we met a family, and they had and this is when Andrew was living with us, and there was like a 12-year-old. Like, you showed up at someone's house to shoot an animal. Yeah. Was he a junior higher or something?
Almost. No, he was like 12 probably.
I didn't see it. You saw him.
11.
But he was naked.
Totally naked.
Like walking around the property.
Birthday suit, and he had no problem with that at all. And that was the best part. There was some, it was hilarious. It was so funny. Andrew could not contain himself. He was in hysterics. Yeah. Because he acted as if he was fully clothed.
Oh, okay.
He had no problem being in his birthday suit.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if civilization could run if that happened on a grander scale,
But, I'm sure he got it.
Yeah.
And I think they are, on Vashon, it's pretty alternative ed, around here. Yeah. And so I think some of us are late readers, some of us are late dressers. And
it's true.
I think I'm pretty sure he got it eventually.
Yeah.
He's all good. He got the virtue of self-clothing.
Of vesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Oh, you mentioned those 20-minute segments.
Yeah.
I must say, too, I don't spend 20 minutes on one subject.
Oh, yeah.
That would be torture.
Yeah.
Even within the 20-minute segments, it's like maybe 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 7-minute sections.
Yeah.
And so I kind of lump like 2, 3, or maybe even 4 subjects within each 20, 25, maybe 30 for the older 2-minute segments. So like one sit down session is reading, writing, geography, math.
Yeah.
I mean, like all the 3 R's.
Yeah.
Okay.
In a 20-minute.
In a 20-minute segment. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's probably my longest. Sometimes that ekes up to the 30-minute segment. Mm-hmm. Then they go play.
Yeah.
Then I'm like making snack or something. And then we do something called morning time. And that you can actually search online morning time, or sometimes I call it morning symposium or something. Mm-hmm. But it's like there's whole podcasts devoted to this.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. My Morning Basket, if you wanted to look it up. Mm-hmm. Oh, real quick. There's some excellent Charlotte Mason podcasts. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll bring that up later, but there's so much out there you can learn. I'm sure you're already probably inundated. Yeah. But my favorite is A Delectable Education, and you'll love the subtitle. It's has something to do with like spreading the feast of the Charlotte Mason method.
Oh, nice.
So it kind of ties in. There's so much parallels with what we do and our food education. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I wanted to mention that podcast name, A Delectable Education. That one's my favorite. But going back, I do morning time. That's like a 15, 20-minute segment. And that's where you do like all of your favorite things. Like the things that like, if everything else goes to hell in a handbasket in your homeschooling day, which it can, what would be the things you don't want to leave out? So for some people, that's Shakespeare. For some people, that's Old Testament stories, poetry, a lot of memory work, because kids, when they're young, that's the age to get them to memorize things, and it's stuck in there for good,
Sure is.
Yeah. So I do some prayer, memory work, things like that.
Animaniacs.
I do Animaniacs then. You're right. That's how they learn
all the capitals.
States and capitals. And it's fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they sing it as fast as they can over and over.
I'm so sorry.
All day. But I can't imagine that they will ever forget it. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And since they can sing the song so fast, you can't ask them, what is the capital of Virginia? And they'll sing all the way to Virginia in about 30 seconds and then give you the capital.
Yeah.
And it's not a short song.
Yeah.
It's
true. Or the presidents. They learned the presidents that way.
Yeah.
So you could Google these. It's funny. That was a good
Animaniacs.
time. Yeah. But then after the morning time, they go outside and play again. And then I call just the older 2 in for Latin and spelling.
Yeah.
And that's really short. That's like 10 minutes. It's just a few vocab cards. And I woke up one day and I was like, my kids don't know anything about spelling. Like they couldn't even spell the word A. Like it's so bad.
Yeah.
And
well, neither did any English speaker up until a couple hundred years ago.
Yeah.
English has always been a very fluid spelling.
Yeah, and I have been known to be a tyrant in that subject. So I don't know, just old habits die hard, right? Yeah. So I finally got my kids a little spelling curriculum, and then we break for lunch, and then and another little trick I picked up is if you want to do any lecturing or reading. First of all, they're tired of hearing your voice. So do it while they're eating their snack. Yeah. Or even while they're eating lunch or something. Like little hands nibbling away. It really buys you a good 5 minutes. And 5 minutes is a long time.
Yeah.
You can pack a lot in. So, and then in the afternoon, I'll do a little science or history reading. Because again, their science curriculum is just us living on this property. Yeah. But if I wanted to actually get a few definitions in there, then I do that in the afternoon, and that's just for the older kids. Yeah. But by this time, like my 6 and my 7-year-old and down, they're done. Yeah. Like I do 2 20-minute sessions with them, and that's it. The rest, I say that's it. I mean, their whole life, as you have described, is learning. The hunt is up. How many people do you know you would say truly share your back to the land values? Or your passion for home-scale craft meat curing?
or simply love the multifaceted beauty of a good meal as obsessively as you do. Maybe a handful? At farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we've created an online community of hundreds of omnivores from around the world and a platform for them to learn from and inspire one another. In addition to our major semi-annual hands-on educational event, the Family Pig, here at our Pacific Northwest homestead, over at farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we host a purely digital membership program with an archive of film and textual resources years deep now, for you to dive deeper into your food journey with. And both our classes and online program include access to our private community Facebook page for your continued education and fellowship. We've been told that our classes are life-changing and the membership program unparalleled in quality and quantity. To get a taste of our education, search farmsteadmeatsmith.com and our YouTube channel for our free films, conversations, and downloads. Explore how we and other meatsmiths across the globe may best come alongside you, putting the knife in your hand, article by article, and comment thread by comment thread, and can support you in building your home around the harvest. Please head to farmsteadmeatsmith.com today.
Another tenet of Charlotte Mason is being outside.
Yeah.
They have to be outside. That's how people learn.
Mm-hmm.
I say kids, but I think especially ladies, maybe we've just forgotten that we must be outside. When I'm at my worst, I realize I haven't been outside all day, or maybe for 2 days.
Uh-huh.
And so kids have to learn by touching and being really connected with nature.
Yeah.
Because then how they learn to interact with their surroundings, that can then be the base that they move out from. Like, that's the core concentric circle for their world, is like outside.
Mm-hmm.
How do they interact with a bug and a flower? Mm-hmm. Are they destructive to the flower, or do they want to like hold it and smell it, you know? And every kid's different. But that extrapolates outward from there. So I would say the 3 big tenets for us are lots of outdoor time, habit building, and then little tiny short 20-minute session lessons.
Yeah. And chores.
And chores. Yeah. And reading aloud. Lots of reading aloud.
And chores include basic self-care.
Yeah.
Like get up and get dressed and brush your teeth.
Yeah. Do your hair.
And it's not that like we're against messy hair. It's just, you might think you're cool with stuff like that until your kids push it all the way to the limit. You're like, all right, we got dreadlocks now.
Yeah.
Think we need to start brushing the hair.
Yeah.
It's becoming unhealthy up there.
Yeah. You're not quite sure what's in your 4-year-old girl's knotted hair. Yeah. Yeah. So I think, all this kind of relates to self-sustainability. We sort of woke up and we're like, sustainability is sort of what we do for our lives. We should talk about, this on the podcast a little bit. This being the time when we're all just hunkered down in our homes.
Yeah. I mean, we don't do it very well, but we do it all the time. In the sense that we're all here living with ourselves. And now that we're forced to do that, we're kind of, it's just not that big of a change for us.
But we are glad that we have invested the way we have in having this property, and for times like this, I guess our kids don't even know what's happening. They do, they hear us talking about it, but they're not suffering.
Not at all.
I think they need to suffer more. That would be helpful to them. But yeah, is there anything else? How does homeschool, like, it's an extension of our lifestyle, I would say, right? Like, we garden, we grow food, and we teach our kids. Like, it's all kind of one. It would be hard for us to have someone else teach our kids, I guess. It's very it's a tapestry. Like you know, to outsource the bacon making of the pig that you have raised would feel very discordant. It's almost the same kind of, it's infinitely more actually, but it's a similar move, I think.
Yeah, and I think well, I don't know, but one of the primary reasons parents might not do it as much, there's lots of reasons, some of them, you know, legitimate, but one of them would be that they think that they can't.
Yeah.
That they're not equipped to.
Yeah, so much of what we teach in our meatsmithery is dispelling fear. And I guess that would be a huge thing we'd want to do here.
Yeah, you got it. You can do it.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up really quick because, we don't know. We don't know why it's happened exactly, but it is interesting that right at this time, like the last month, maybe even just the last 3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah.
Our To Kill a Pig Nicely film on YouTube has gone crazy bananas.
Yeah, it's called, we had to retitle it on YouTube to Harvest a Pig Nicely.
Oh, okay.
So that it didn't get targeted by YouTube bots or something.
Okay.
And we edited out just a few seconds of, you know, the actual blood coming out of the pig.
Yeah.
Because on the YouTube they would not have allowed it.
Yeah.
So we made it YouTube accessible, but it's still everything, and it's about an hour long. Is it still on our website, the full version? Okay, so you could see the completely unedited version.
That's right. Which is basically the thing he had to take out was a lot of the blood, like the
just
actual
the sticking.
Sticking.
You still see where I stick though.
You do. He left it in.
He just gets half second of the.
Yeah, you could pause it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's How to Kill a Pig, and I think it's up to 160,000 views right now.
Okay.
Up from 12,000 as of like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's exploding.
It's taken off, and because of that, we have over doubled our YouTube subscribers. We were at barely over 3,000 at the beginning of March, and now we're at, you said 6.2 thousand. So that's huge.
Yeah, that's great.
And I actually wanted to welcome all those new subscribers if you've made it to the end of this episode.
Yeah.
We've kind of talked about some things that might not have been quite as relevant for everyone, but we wanted to go there anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for joining the YouTube following of the Meatsmith Harvest.
We have a lot more on our website at farmsteadmeatsmith.com.
Yeah.
And if you click on the membership tab, you will see that we have an online membership, a huge archive of videos like To Harvest a Pig Nicely, ranging from how to harvest, cook, and cure without refrigeration or synthetic chemicals, pork and goat and lamb and duck. Do you have a chicken up there yet? Probably not. But everything. We have, so much. How to cure meat naturally, how to cook it, and just how to fence pigs, how to raise pigs. Just the basic stuff that used to be the native prowess of the domestic kitchen that has since kind of been outsourced. And as we're learning, much to the fragility, increasing the fragility of suburban and urban lifestyles. I mean, when you look at we watched Cinderella Man recently, the story of Braddock, is that his name? The boxer. Braddock.
Something, yeah.
Who, bulldog, I think, who had to come back, who lived through the Depression, and we were just watching the way that they depict his family during the Great Depression in New York, so in a city. And I just could not believe how much they suffered solely by being this isolated island, completely alienated from all natural resources. To make a fire, they had to tear apart street signs And they just suffered so much because their life was so fragile and could be so easily overturned by the loss of supermarkets or the tanking of the value of their money. They were just so precariously perched in their well-being, dependent upon huge elements of our infrastructure that once they go out, people are hurting. That's really sad. And I'm just so grateful for the little bit of backyard that we have, where we feel very secure, not just in the space, but then in the resources we're able to extract from it. And it's not complex. It is beguilingly simple to do this, to grow food and to harvest it, not just for survival, not just to bung it in the freezer, but it is actually the good life. I mean, this is how we live all the time, because it tastes real good. Like we always say, you can cure bacon and you can cure ham that will taste better than anything you can't purchase anywhere in the world. You can do it in your kitchen. It's very simple. Yeah. All you need is salt and a pig in the backyard.
Well, what you say is true. I mean, we're all hunkering down like we're in like a basement somewhere, but it's the good life. Like our hunkering down has been pretty enjoyable. As long as we don't kill ourselves. You know? Like which comes back to that like building virtue and things like that. But like the material base of our existence covered. You know, for at least a while. I mean, our well is still on electricity, and there's certain things that we'd love to shore up someday. But if everything went out right now, I'm sure we could like figure out how to dig a well. I don't know, something. We'd figure it out.
That'd be rough.
That'd be the hardest thing. And
manual pump.
But we have a bucket of lard. I kid you not. That is this big.
Oh, God, I keep using it.
And I have bags of beans. I mean, we would survive.
We have 5 pigs.
It's not. Yeah, we do have 5 pigs that are ready to go, but we're hopefully going to do that in May. So
lots of firewood.
We're doing okay.
Lots of standing trees. Yeah.
But anyway, you mentioned membership. I wanted to bring that up again. One of the most recent videos that you just finished. So yeah, you cover like the basic things, but then you also cover you're starting to get into more of the culinary side of things, which I'm really excited about. So some things that are more just, they might seem more esoteric, but they are part of this good life. And also very simple. They're kind of well, I don't want to give too much away, but you do a really good video on tartare. And it's actually quite beautiful, I would say.
Oh, thanks.
And so I did a little advertisement of it. I took a longer kind of soliloquy that you do, and then I put a few little visuals behind that.
Oh, I didn't know you did.
So we'll end the episode today, I think, with that clip.
Oh, cool.
So, anyway, so when you hear that music, it's slightly different than the usual ending that we have. But I wanted people to get a little taste of the videos that you're making that are kind of tucked away inside membership.
So is that will be, if you're listening to this on an iTunes app, but you want to see the actual video, you'd have to go to YouTube.
That's right.
To see the end of this podcast.
But I say the gold is more it's your verbal.
Oh, okay.
It's what you say. Yeah, because you're kind of building this case for tartare, but it's kind of also a case for the Meatsmith way. It's the good life. Following the trajectory of one culinary path versus another culinary path, and where that leads you, and it's just really well said. So I strung that together. But yeah, that's then we have some other videos up too that you just finished, and you just finished today. In fact, I was going to bring this up at the beginning. You're working on a Cabrito episode or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But that's been really exciting.
Yeah, because it's early spring right now, so the small dairies are swarming with young animals. And our case, just up the road, we have good friends that have a goat dairy. And very small, it's just one family, another great domestic economy, milking about 30 goats, making the cheese there, and selling it there and at the farmers markets when they're happening, which is not right now. But they have been selling goat kids. And you should probably look them up and go buy a goat kid.
Well, so yeah, we've mentioned them before several times because we've partnered with them for classes and pork shares and things in the past. Previously, they've been known as Burton Hill Farm. And they just changed they're doing a brand name change.
Yeah.
So they're now Stella Maris Farm.
Yeah.
I think both will, if you search for either one, you'll find them still.
They're the creamery previously known as Burton Hill Farm.
Yeah.
And dairy.
But they're in a lot of the Seattle and Tacoma farmers markets. And
West Seattle and Proctor.
how
Delicious cheese.
How are the farmers markets doing these days?
Not at all. They're not happening.
Yeah, so the local farms they're
shut
struggling.
down.
They're having to be real creative.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few rogue markets popping up in the city where farmers just kind of go anyway. Or they have drop points. They'll coordinate with their customers to meet them at a certain intersection. And
They're bending over backwards.
I mean, it's all outdoors, so you can actually observe social distancing. It's actually a much more stable food source for an urban population.
That's true. It passes between less hands.
Right, yeah. So the cheese that Colin Medeiros makes with Burton Hill Stella Maris Farm is touched by him. That's it.
Yeah.
Maybe Ursa milks the goat. But no, he doesn't even touch. I mean, maybe they finish him, but it's machine. And then Colin makes the cheese, and then you buy the cheese from Colin and Rebecca, and you eat it.
Yeah.
So that's about as clean as it gets.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's drop points that a lot of farmers are coordinating with. On Vashon, the farm stands have been Vashonites have been buying their food at farm stands. Again, safer than at the supermarket right now if you're trying to avoid contagion. I mean, supermarket stuff on the shelf is handled by
That's true.
hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Dozens of different environments before it even gets there. But if you buy local, I mean, that is the tightest loop. And so farm stands have been doing pretty good. Farms that have not been doing CSAs on Vashon are thinking of doing them again just because the demand is so high for local produce right now. So
yeah, I mean,
so far
some businesses,
it's working out, I think,
yeah,
for small farms, but we'll see.
Some businesses are doing okay because of this crisis. Seed companies, for instance, are like, they can't keep their stock in supply. I mean, they're just selling out,
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah. I know it's farmers, I'm sure, are struggling with getting their seed every year.
Yeah.
Because I know there's delays because seed companies are a little behind. And I know when we do shop for the handful of things that we do buy, we buy in massive quantities because we eat massive quantities. So we buy butter by the truckload.
Already, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not what, I'm not hoarding. This is just, this is every 2 weeks. This is just actually how much butter we eat. This is the norm.
This is why we're trying to get a cow someday in the works, because we're like, now it actually is a problem to go get milk because my mom and dad can't get it as often. And
it's off island.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, I get so distracted. I'm sorry. I'm so circuitous in my thought process. I have to apologize to our listeners.
What were you going to say?
But Cabrito, we were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
That's the next film project that you're working on.
Yeah. So eating goat kids.
Yeah.
Eating cute baby animals. It is your duty as a cheese eater. If you eat cheese, you are a baby animal murderer. That is the truth.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that stark. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a seasonal bounty every year because small dairies, all dairies actually, produce two things: milk and meat. It's impossible for a dairy to only produce meat. Milk.
Yeah.
The reason those mama animals produce milk is because they are mamas.
Yeah.
That's why. And if you want that milk to become cheese, then it can't be consumed by the babies, by the kids or the calves. And usually the farmer cannot afford to raise out those kids or calves. You know, he probably could, but he would immediately destroy all of his pasture through overstocking. And he would be raising sub-desirable, meat creatures because they're all dairy breeds.
Yeah.
And so, definitely some farmers, cross in bulls from meat breeds and such. But most of these dairy breeds, they're not putting any of their energy into skeletal muscle. It's all in the udder. And that affects the carcasses of the females as well as the bucks and the bulls. And so usually the highest and best use, the most efficient thing to do is to harvest that baby animal when it's a week old or 2 weeks.
And super cute.
Super cute. And in fact, it's not just essential to the production of cheese. In that regard, by means of its efficiency and not overburdening the farm, because the animals will take over. They will reproduce to an extent where they will destroy all of the local resources and destroy themselves. That is the way of things. And so the dairyman actually has to be a predator. That's why there are predators in nature. I was talking to Colin all about this. Culling is the way you preserve the herd. That's why the wolves eat the caribou. And in the absence of the wolves, the farmer must eat the excess kids. And for the sake of the goats, for the sake of the herd. And even historically, if you want rennet, guess where that rennet comes from? Right now we can grow rennet in the lab. We can culture it with genetically modified elements, which is not, some would argue, not ideal. So before that, where did rennet come from? Rennet being essential to the making of cheese. And it comes from the stomachs of little baby animals that have not yet eaten anything beyond milk.
So they're ruminant animals, but they haven't eaten grass.
They have not eaten grass. So they're cheesivores. They don't even eat milk. They drink milk, but then they immediately turn it into cheese in their little stomachs, their rennet stomach.
Yeah, that's cute.
And where does your rennet come from? It comes from that stomach. You kill the baby animal. You get its stomach. You empty it, but you don't rinse it out.
Right.
And then you salt it and dry it and hang it up.
Oh, wow.
And then you clip off a little corner of it and you put it in your cheese vat. And that precipitates your curd and you make your cheese.
Wow.
So you are supplanting the baby goat kid or calf in every way. We are all, the cows and the goats are the nursemaids of the wet nurses of humanity. As someone once said. I don't know who that was, but it is so true.
Yeah.
You are becoming a goat kid. In the order of the natural order.
Yeah.
In a way, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
You're taking the rennet stomach and you're turning the cheese vat. The cheese vat becomes the rennet stomach of that little goat kid.
Yeah.
And now you're feeding your whole family and your pigs and your ducks on the excess that is produced from that one dairy animal. Dairy animals are just absolutely incredible. And your fields with their manure. They become this extraordinary resource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. That's cool.
So all of that to say, eat goat kids.
Yeah. So you show that process.
Yeah, I show the process of even of killing a goat kid and specifically preparing it such that which reminds me, I got to get it in the oven. You retain the hide intact. So I scald and dehair the goat kids.
That is the crazy part.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Makes crispy, wonderful skin. Rather than, you can skin them too, and it's great, but you can also scald and get the hair off that way.
It's mind-blowing. When you told me it the first time that you had done that, I didn't know how to take it. It's like, what, you can eat the hide?
Yeah.
Because it's different than eating like a pig's skin.
Right.
You know?
It's hide.
Yeah.
But it's so thin and so delicate.
And we did it for lunch today.
Yeah.
And you filmed the harvesting of it and then also the roasting of it over fire. And we had a beautiful day.
Yeah.
It's still beautiful. I want to get out there. But, and then we ate it and it was so delicious.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's a very different kind of texture than pig skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're filming the cooking of it as well, which is what I'm so excited about, because I think there's a lot of people out there that want the next step. You know, they know how to sharpen their knives, and they know how to kill and even butcher the animals and cure it too. And then it's like, okay, now let's get to the kitchen and do the fun part.
Yeah, which is really the final cause. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cooking it up.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us, everyone. This has been a really fun episode. Hopefully we've talked about some things that relate, even if you're a grandparent, right? You got to be around your grandkids right now. And we'll see you next time. Hopefully next time we record, we'll be out of the quarantine and we can talk about how our lives have hopefully come out for the better by then. But until then, happy harvesting, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that we've developed all of these techniques to make animal flesh more accessible, easier to chew, easier to digest. We've prepared it in ways that have muted its flavor to make it so we can eat more before surf eating, so we can eat even very rich things in greater quantities. We've got all of these tricks to dilute meat just a little bit and what it truly is in its rawest form. And as we do that, one path of culinary development kind of makes its way to the lab, right? And now all of a sudden we're growing meat in petri dishes. It is this meatless meat. But if you follow a more traditional path of culinary development, it starts, from the consumption of raw flesh, hunting animals, outrunning them, chasing them down, and harvesting them, and then mashing up their flesh in mortar and pestles, or chopping it finely, or just smashing it. And then we advance, and we get better and better at cooking it, and preparing it, and seasoning it, and there's no limit to the subtlety that you can get in terms of flavor from like a prosciutto. It's at least as complex as wine and cheese, of course it is. And yet you follow that development, that progression, all the way up, and amongst the most refined achievements, you find tartare, the most primitive manifestation of a meaty meal that we consume. And there's something rightly ordered about a culinary tradition that advances to lead you back to the beginning, back to the raw flesh of the animal. And I would argue that there's something about the flavor of raw flesh. It has a subtle minerality to it that appeals to the deepest part of our appetite.